Good morning, Friendship United Methodist Church. I'd like to welcome you on this 15th day of March 2026. Well, guys, how's your Lenten season going? In the light of Christ, have you come to see your life or the life of the church any differently since we began Lent 2026? I recall seeing the Big E. I was a freshman in high school when my basketball coach, Joe Paul Blankenship, asked me if I had ever had an eye exam. I thought it was a stupid question, if you will. I was wondering why he asked me that, and I never thought much about it. I thought my eyesight was pretty good. Went hunting all the time, didn't have much problem. But anyway, he scheduled me for an eye appointment, and as I sat in the chair before the optician entered, I noticed the Big E, and I thought, boy, this is going to be a piece of cake. And then I noticed the fuzzier letters underneath, and I walked over, and I thought, well, maybe that's what you're supposed to do, is get up and look at them. Well, duh, that was me, just wasn't really thinking about it. And soon after, friends, I started wearing sport glasses that the school purchased. However, my scoring fell off substantially over the next 3 games. And Coach Blankenship says, why don't you leave those off tonight and play like you used to? So I did. And my scoring returned. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I saw 3 goals and I shot the center one. I have no idea. But no, it did return. I did go on and purchase glasses to wear otherwise. Until then, I thought what I was seeing was everything there was to see, friends. But I was wrong. I was wrong, and I admit it. And the second thing I learned about seeing wasn't about my eyes, but about my perspective. You see, I had been forewarned about Bascom Boyd, the algebra teacher. I'd been told that he was one of the teachers that nobody wanted, especially you didn't want him, Bob. And he was an old, crotchety, mean, no fun. And everybody lived in fear of him. You know how it is. If you school, you had teachers you heard good about and otherwise. And I came to see him in a different light, however, once I had the time to get to know him. And those descriptions of him said more about his detractors than about him. He was one of the best teachers at Louisa High School. Friends, there are 2 kinds of seeing blindness, physical and spiritual. It's possible to see one way and be blind to the other. We're all wearing glasses that cause us to see things a certain way or not see them. As they say, a little learning can be a bad thing. Some of our learning makes us see things wrongly or not at all. The Christian life entails a lot of learning and relearning. Such is the subject of today's story about Jesus' encounter with a man born blind and how the man comes to see who Jesus is and how everybody else who see are spiritually blind. When Jesus and his disciples come upon this man who has been blind from birth, they ask, who sinned that this man was born blind? He or his parents? What did he do in the womb? My goodness. Did he sin in the womb? Who knows? His parents? But the human assumption behind the question is still at work today. Every effect has a cause. Everything that happens has an explanation. We like to think that way, don't we? We must have someone to blame. Have you noticed that? It may be an individual. Lung cancer, you say. Well, he was a smoker. Or it may be societal. No wonder the kid got into trouble. They were always working, making money to give things to their kids. That's what's wrong with our society today. It's so materialistic. They want more and more and more, just give to the kids. The theology behind their question also is at work today. God is the enforcer or justice. The good are rewarded, the bad are punished. Illness is a punishment for one's sin. How does Jesus answer his disciples' question? He answers in typical Jesus fashion. You've got to work at seeing what he's saying. You hear me? You have to work at seeing what he's saying. That means dive deeper into your reading. Don't take it at surface value. You have to dig deeper to see what he is saying. Jesus answers them by telling them that the assumption behind their question is wrong. Neither this man nor his parents did anything to cause his blindness. His blindness is an occasion for God's grace to be revealed in him. So seeing through different eyes, friends, every human situation, friends, cannot be explained. Non-smokers get lung cancer. Children raised in the best of homes get into trouble. Jesus says, change your perspective. Put on a different set of glasses. Instead of worrying about whom to blame, look for how God is seeking to bring good out of bad. And we refer to the patience of Job, when in fact he became very impatient, demanding that God justify why bad things happen to good people like himself. In the end, Job comes to see that if God's existence is dependent upon life's being fair, then everyone's destined to be an agnostic, if not an atheist. A book by Bart D. Ehrman has got a lot of attention, and its title says it all. God's Problem: How the Bible Fails to Answer Our Most Important Question. Why we suffer. And in the book, he traces his journey from belief to unbelief. He's a good example of how the glasses we wear affect what we're able to see. If you go to the Bible looking for an explanation for suffering because your job description for God entails God's protecting the innocent, you're going to be very disappointed, friends. In my opinion, the most important question we humans ask is not, why do we suffer? But why are we so richly blessed? And why do we inflict so much suffering on one another? And why don't we do more to stop the horrific suffering that we are aware of? Jesus heals a man that was born blind from birth. What could possibly keep his parents from rejoicing over the gift of sight that he received? Think about it. Would you be happy? His parents? Now, a religious community that threatens them with expulsion if they acknowledge what has happened and who did it. So the religious experts presume they know who God is and how God works. I think we look at that today, don't we? The blind man was healed on the Sabbath by Jesus, who made mud from saliva and dirt, spread it on the man's eyes, and then told him to go and wash. According to Sabbath law, making mud was prohibited. That was work. Thus, Jesus is a sinner, and God doesn't use sinners to work miracles. Their belief blinded them to a God bigger than what their religion had taught them. And friends, I think we are blinded today as well. It puts glasses on them, kept them from seeing what is right in front of them. And I think we have that problem still today. If they or we allow themselves or ourselves to see what Jesus is revealing to them about God, that God is more concerned about helping people see than about determining who sinners are. Where will that leave them? It will leave them denying they've seen what they've seen. We pore over the scriptures today, the miracles we didn't see. So we say it can't have happened that way. God help our unbelief. Or it will leave them with a decision about whether they can continue to believe in what causes them to be blind and see what God is doing in Jesus. Joey lived across the street from the parsonage of Bill's church, and when they moved there, their only child was a 3-pound Yorkie whose name fit his self-perception, Ferocious. And while there, God blessed Bill with Marie. Joey didn't work. He was on disability. He adopted Ferocious and Marie. Both knew where to get their favorite cookies. And Joey, to put it bluntly, friends, was a racist. The neighborhood had begun to undergo racial transformation. A black family had moved in behind him, another one down the street, and Joey wasn't at all reticent about giving Pastor Bill an earful of derogatory comments about the new neighbors. Joey and his wife didn't belong to a church. Pastor Bill was the closest thing to a pastor they ever had, even after Pastor Bill moved downstate. When Joey died, his wife called and asked him to conduct Joey's funeral service. When Pastor Bill got to the funeral home, to his surprise, he discovered that half of Joey's pallbearers were his black neighbors. Joey had come to see the untruth of his prejudice that had kept him from seeing. Brennan Manning, from Messy Spirituality, God's Annoying Love for Imperfect People by Michael Liconi, quoted in Pulpit Resource, volume 33, tells the story of a man recently converted to Jesus and how an unbelieving friend sought to see why. So you've been converted to Christ, eh? Yes. Then you must know a great deal about him, huh? Tell me, what country was he born in? I don't know. What was his age when he died? I don't know. How many sermons did he preach? I don't know. Well, you certainly know very little for a man who claims to be converted to Christ, friend. You are right, he said. I am ashamed of how little I know about him, but this much I know. This much I know, friends. I was a drunkard. 3 years ago, I was a drunkard. I was in debt. My family was falling to pieces. They dreaded the sight of me. But now I have given up drink. We're out of debt. Ours is a happy home. My children eagerly await my return home each evening. All this Christ has done for me. Stop and think what Christ has done for you. Amen.